Alright guys, TJHaLy here again today. Today is Friday. We're going to be talking about 100 Thieves. Not talking about the Pro League. I'm currently away. It was simply a case of either I pre-record these videos or you guys don't get any content at all. So I thought this was better than nothing. Hope you guys enjoy it anyway. And yes, let's get into the video then. So, the Pro League is concluded for Week 11. Week 12 will be next week, of course, and I will hopefully get a chance to cover that live, or at least the next day after the matches do transpire. If you guys are looking for what results and exactly what happened this week, I'll leave the links down below and in the pinned comment as well, so you guys can check out exactly what happens. So today we're going to be talking about 100 Thieves and their entire team play and their team dynamic and what they bring to the table when they are at events. Of course, they could have lost some matches this week against FaZe and against LG, could be, you know, potential losses, or at least they could mix them up with those teams, I think, especially because LG especially is a pretty new team. I don't know how it went, but it would be interesting to see nonetheless. But even if they did lose a couple of these matches, I still don't think these teams can really compete with 100 Thieves when it comes to events. 100 Thieves in the league haven't been quite so good. They did get beaten by United in that 3-0 fashion, which is something we will talk about as this video moves forwards. Really what I want to look at here, they've won the last two events. You guys pointed out what I said the other day after I recapped Anaheim, where the team that's won Anaheim has never won champs. Technically, that's not true because back in the Call of Duty Ghosts days, Complexity won champs, but yet Evil Geniuses won Anaheim. But I think it was the same team. They had just changed organizations in that classic switch. So yes, that was a little bit of a mistake on my part, but regardless, the point still stands to some degree. A team who is the best team in the game at the start of May tends not to be the best team in the game 3 months later, the way Call of Duty works. In fact, 3.5 months later, nearly 4 months later. So, who can topple them? That's my question for this video. These videos that we're recording in advance typically will be more interactive ones. Be really interested to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. And of course, these are the teams. So here are the 16 teams, or the 15 teams, that are attempting to take down 100 Thieves and knock off their top spot when it comes down to the CDBL Finals at Miami, which I talked about in detail, how the format for that works in yesterday's video. You guys can check that out if you're interested. And then, of course, Call of Duty World Championships, which is what we are really all interested in. Kenny, of course, was runner-up last year on that Team Caliber squad. In fact, so was Enable as well. So they're looking to get their first chip, their first ring even, and to get their revenge. In fact, all the players on this team but Slasher are looking to get their first ring. So that's definitely an exciting storyline. But have they peaked too early? Because yes, 100 Thieves right now are clearly the best team in the game. There's no other way to look at it, even if results didn't go in their favour particularly this week. Let's have a look at their results. So this is this looks like London to me. They won London in a pretty comfortable fashion. It wasn't overly comfortable. They did end up having a very, very close series against OpTic Gaming. If they didn't win that control, which Kenny clutched up, which I did break down in a video, then things could have been very, very different. And their Search and Destroy on the whole wasn't so good this tournament, but they still won in the end and still looked like the strongest team in the game. Very recently, though, at Anaheim, they were undoubtedly the best team on the weekend. They lost just 4 maps the entire weekend. To put it into context, as I did when I recapped the event a couple of weeks ago now, OpTic Gaming, when they won Vegas, which is considered one of the most dominant event performances of all time, or at least in modern memory with the competitive nature of the modern game, they lost 4 maps there. 100 Thieves also lost only 4 maps, and I think on the whole their maps weren't as close. They didn't have as many close scares as OpTic did all the way back at Vegas. So, you know, to put it into context, a remarkable performance from 100 Thieves. They really dominated this event. It didn't look like they were ever going to come close to losing, even if OpTic Gaming had matched up with 100 Thieves again in the grand finals. Not only is their team play fantastic, but it must be taken into account that their play under pressure is also phenomenal. Whenever these guys seem to be under a bit of pressure and it might be getting to them and the game is coming down to the wire and they're needed in the clutch moments, especially, for example, if they were to go to a game 5, I feel like 100 Thieves I'd have to give some sort of advantage to, because they seem to be incredibly composed, and that's one of their biggest strengths. They didn't even need to use that aspect of their game at Anaheim. Regardless, It's still a couple of months away until the Call of Duty World League Championship, at which time will they still be the best team in the game? Right now, a lot of people would say, 100 Thieves got to be favourites for the last two events, and on current form, I would tend to agree. Even if the league didn't go so well this week, they did lose to United in the league before, as I said, in a 3-0 fashion, and they came back comfortably at Anaheim and were the best team in the game. Often in the league, maybe they're trying out trying to expand their map pool and try out some things that they wouldn't really normally try out at LAN events. So even if they don't do so well in the league, I feel like this team still has to be feared when we go onto the main stage. So which team can upset them? Of course, all these teams are trying to do it. Let's count out some teams that we don't see as likely competitors. So, the likes of Enigma 6, the likes of, I don't think Envy is going to be a good enough team to compete. Heretics, Units for sure, Elevate, Evil Geniuses, UYU and Midnight. I think that none of those teams realistically are going to be lifting the World Championship. Now, there are some teams that I think could do it for sure. There's probably about 8 teams right now which are competitive teams for my money that at least on paper could be competitive to 100 Thieves and beat them on their day. Whether they will be good enough when it really comes down to it at the end is tough to say. One thing to also mention, which I've talked about over the videos in the earlier part of this week, that there is potentially an SMG buff coming pre-Miami. If that is the case, if it does change the weapon significantly, supposedly from what I've heard it's only a tweak, so I don't know if it's going to be significant. But if we do see a more 2 SMG meta, maybe that's the catalyst that 100 Thieves, or at least the competitors to 100 Thieves, need to get it to a position where they may in fact be beatable over the course of a tournament. Because on current form, of course, they do look fantastic. There's no other way to put it. Now, that AR line is really the spectacular part, and Priestahh can pretty much use any weapon, but if it was going to move to a more SMG-dominated meta, then their SMG, I guess their only real weaknesses on this team is in just Enable's raw ability, I guess. I think Enable is a fantastic player. I think to remove him off this team would be an idiotic thing to do. He's definitely the glue to the team. But if he was being forced into a situation where he has to use, the Sorg, and Priestahh has to use one as well, and he's going to be the bait player, then of course this is, I guess, where you have the weaknesses on this team. Not really many weaknesses at all, but in terms of raw ability, Kenny, Octane, Slasher and Priestahh are unbelievable. There's only really one weak link in terms of raw firepower, and even then he's not really a weak link because he can easily put up a 1.0 KD, and if he does, 100 Thieves win the game basically on the spot. But, just to say, if the SMGs do become more impactful and more important, then there's potential that 100 Thieves would not necessarily stay the best team in the game, or at least that could be the catalyst for some sort of change. For example, if you looked at Splice, who can jerd on the SMGs, then we might be having some conversations here, let's put it that way. So, which teams do I think can compete? Now, OpTic Gaming obviously are the first one that comes to mind. They've done it in the past. They've got winners on their team. They've got championship winners. They've got world championship winners, of course, in Scump, Crim and Karma. And I think they could definitely be competitors to 100 Thieves. I see no reason why they wouldn't be at least competitive coming down to the wire. I think that 100 Thieves and OpTic Gaming could be a rivalry that we really relish over the coming years. Many R's in that sentence. Now, United is an interesting one. I saw this comment the other day on my channel from Morty, and he says that after Anaheim and over 3 years of coming up short, it should be clear that this current roster is not good enough to win a chip, but instead of making a move, they decided to hold tight and wait for next year's franchising. If they are satisfied being top 6, I will look for a new team to support. Now, I thought this was somewhat telling, really, and I thought it was quite interesting because, yes, United probably had their best chance to win this event that they've ever had. And it didn't go well for them. They lost to Gen.G, and then they ended up getting eliminated for the tournament not long after that in a top 6 placing by OpTic Gaming, none other. Now look, they didn't decide to make a change. And does that mean they could win a chip? I am not convinced. I'm not gonna lie. It's something about, like, could I picture United winning a trophy at either, let's talk about champs. That's the main one for this year. Could I see them winning champs? Priestahh has done it in the past back in the Advanced Warfare days, but he hasn't won an event in like 3.5 years. And keeping him on this team, I just don't see them winning a championship. I'm sorry for all you United fans out there. Maybe you think differently. They can definitely be one of the best teams. They're the top of, well, at least as I'm recording this, top of Division B. I think they're in Division B. and they have beaten 100 Thieves in the league. They can do it on their day. Can they win an event though and be better than 100 Thieves consistently? I am really not sure. So right now, I don't see E United as a team to topple 100 Thieves. Maybe they will prove me wrong. So let's have a look at some other teams. Gen.G, I don't think will ever get a second place again. I think that this is one of those situations where they're a great team and Envoy played out of his mind and Nagafen did very well, and honestly the whole team was playing very well. But it's a kind of scenario where you have not necessarily a miracle run. They were probably the second best team or the third best team or fourth best team, something like that. They were a very good team at Anaheim. There's no other way to put it than that. But it could well be a scenario where this team is not as good as their performance suggests, and because they haven't made a change, they will struggle to compete with some other teams that especially have made a change and teams that are constantly improving the latter two events. Do I see Gen.G overhauling 100 Thieves as the best team in the game? I do not. So right now I'm counting out Gen.G, and it's difficult to count out E United. They have the talent to beat 100 Thieves on their day. Do I see them winning an event though? Like, I'm not convinced right now. Now, FaZe Clan is a team that could, but once again, do I see them actually lifting the World Championship trophy? It's tough to say. They're a great team, undoubtedly, probably definitely a top 4 team in the game right now. There's no other way to put it. But can I see them winning the World Championship? You know, it's difficult to say. I'm not sure. But I think they do stand a much better chance than a team like Gen.G, let's put it that way. Now, let's have a look at some of the other teams that made changes in Splyce and Luminosity. Luminosity I'm not wholly convinced on yet. I think they could do it, but I think there maybe is too many weaknesses in this team to at least put up a consistent performance across the course of the weekend. So look, finishing off the video, these are my teams that I think could compete with 100 Thieves for the World Championship. Number 1 is going to be OpTic. Of course they can compete with them. They've done it all year. They've come very close to beating them at times. They have World Championship winners. Second is going to be FaZe. I think they can make it. I think in terms of their constant improvement, I know they have a great coaching and analyst staff behind the scenes as well. So I'm pretty sure they might be able to put up some numbers. All it really takes is for FaZe Clan to get their search and destroyed better, because their respawn has been lights out like 100 Thieves has, but 100 Thieves improved their S&D significantly going into Anaheim. If FaZe can do the same going into Miami and Champs, then they really could be a contender. Reciprocity is a team that I didn't mention in this video, and I didn't really talk about Envy that much. I'm just talking about teams that I can really see winning the World Championship. Envy should be a team that could be up there on paper, but look, I really don't like the composition of this team. I think they're looking much more long-term than they are for this World Championship, but on paper, maybe it could happen. I just don't see them overhauling 100 Thieves how good they are right now. Now, the last team I'm going to look at potentially as overhaulers is going to be Splyce. Now, this team is obviously as yet unproven. We don't really know how good they are in a LAN environment. But I think, as I said, if this SMG tweak does come into effect and it does move to a more fast-paced game, Splyce will be very, very good and hot on that money. Temp is a fantastic player who can jerd on your SMGs, Looney on your Maddox as well to go alongside Temp. And then Aqua has been a little bit inconsistent, but he's a very aggressive main assault rifle. And I think on his day, he can definitely compete with some of the best. Now, I don't think that they are a great choice. If I had to pick one team that was going to get back and overhaul 100 Thieves, probably would be OpTic Gaming. I would give the best chance to, but I think that Splyce could do it, at least on paper. I think that FaZe Clan could do it, and definitely E United could do it as well, but it's just like, do I see them winning a championship, especially after Anaheim was such a great opportunity for them to do so, and it just didn't happen. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this down in the comment section below. Who do you think can overtake 100 Thieves as the best team in the game, if anyone at all, or will they just keep up their reign of dominance, winning Miami and winning Champs? And then I guess we have to talk about some sort of dynasty, don't we? Just a couple of months after I did a video on whether one is ever possible again. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like if you did, subscribe if you're new as always. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I will see you next time.
Please.
Oh, so easy.
Please.
So easy. So easy.
Charges diffused.
Don't try it, kiddo.
Tied by the numbers.
Don't come at the
That's how
game.
we drilled it.
Come at the peasant.
Cover the peasant, yeah. Nah, to be fair, they
That's
actually
such
came
a
with
great
it. They did come with the peasant right here, but look at this shit. Guns. Guns. Good night.